Right, just want to talk to you about your options and your resources. So the point of having good personal security in place and adhering to a game plan where you're switched off and alert and aware is to create options. You know, if you're not alert and aware and suddenly you find yourself under assault, the only option you've got is to respond the best way you can. Now, quite often you find yourself in a tooth and nail struggle, where if you are switched on and you spot something early, you can create time and distance, which create opportunity for you to make a choice, right? So the options and the resources are part of your soft skills in terms of understanding. The next would be posturing. So posturing relates to an aggressive threat display designed to psych out the subject, to dissuade his attitude, to get a different perception of you. Now, don't misunderstand what posturing is. Posturing isn't a case of, make a scary face, make a lot of noise and hope for the best. If somebody actually steps through and still comes to you, no matter what, even if you have postured, then it's just like you've thrown the gauntlet, they've picked it up. So be prepared to go to the physical. So there's an example of posturing which you'll find in the animal kingdom. Imagine a lioness feeding her cubs in a nice, relaxed maternal state, feeding her babies, and then all of a sudden a hyena steps into their space. Imagine how her physiology would change. She would instantaneously be up on her feet, her fur would raise, which would innately make her appear larger. She'd salivate aggressively, she'd growl. Anything about her demeanour would say to that hyena, if you stepped forward, you're fucking lunch. So that would be an example of posturing. So an example of posturing might be, let's say I clinically dispatch somebody who's got a friend with him, and I tell him to stay the fuck where he is, or I'll fucking put him down. So I suggest consequence, and I do it in a very aggressive way. This would be an example of posturing in order to dissuade attitude. It's an option, and it can work. If the person still comes forward in spite of the fact that you postured, then the thing to think about is, well, you are already in an aggressive fight state because you've accessed it. So now you're good to go. And if he was going to assault, he was going to assault anyway. But posturing, again, is an option. Verbal dissuasion is an option that requires the use of your voice and congruent body language and demeanour, as does posturing. The other one that you can think about is what we call partial submission. So not submission where you're just going to give in, but partial submission. So one example might be somebody steps out with a knife and demands your mobile phone or your wallet. And you put it on the floor in front as you step back and say, fucking take it. And you move away. This would be an example of partial submission. Give me the bag.
All right.
Give me the bag.
All right, have the fucking bag.
If you're going to do that, then from a wallet perspective, it's not a good idea to keep all the money you've got in your wallet. Obviously don't keep your PIN number with your credit cards. And in the UK, you have a driving licence which has your address on it. So I would suggest you always keep your driving licence or anything, documentation that has your address on it, separate and not in your wallet. Because the last thing that you want is for give up your wallet so you don't get mugged, only to worry about whether this person's going to turn up around your house for the next 6 months. So, but partial submission is one option in terms of that. Another example of partial submission would be using deception. So let's say there's a woman at her work do Christmas party. Everybody's there, everybody's been drinking, and let's say one of her colleagues, John, who's normally a very nice guy, is now turned into the fucking Antichrist, and he's cornered her in the kitchen, and he's coming onto her in a sexual sense. And she tries to dissuade, but he's not having none of it and starts to get agitated. Well, one thing that she could do to play it, to buy the opportunity to escape, would be to pretend that she's game, maybe start undoing a button or two, maybe pull him forward and work as if she's undoing his blouse, undoing his trousers, and then maybe she'll just knee him in the bollocks from there. Maybe she strokes his face and tells him, oh, okay, I want it too, and then she drives a thumb in the eye. Bottom line is she's using a deceptive, compliant demeanour in order to get him close before she can become assaultive. This is another example of partial submission. Then, of course, you've got the option of running. Like I said, it relates to escape. If you've got the option to get gone, you should get gone. That's the priority in all cases, because the final option open to you is going to be fighting back, which will incorporate your physical tools. So just to recap then, your options: escape, verbal dissuasion, posturing, partial submission, or fighting back. These are your options.